What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Who You Got with
MELO
and RADO, the sports podcast where we talk about your favorite sports debates, sports highlights, and sports matchups. And what a hell of a fight weekend we had. UFC 271. We're here to talk about it, right, Melo?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolute slugfest. A lot of fights on that card. And I definitely...
Man, what a great fight weekend. I mean, obviously we had some great matchups, even in the undercard. We're definitely here to talk about pretty much the main three fights on that main card. I mean, everyone knows about those. Adesanya versus Whittaker, number 2. Tuivasa versus Lewis, and then Cannonier versus Derek Brunson. Those are some great fights, honestly. All three of them were amazing fights. And to be honest, in our prediction episode, we didn't get too much wrong other than the middle fight. The middle fight was definitely a little iffy for us. But as far as the other stuff, we got pretty right.
So I actually was so bad on my picks for 270, I decided to be a little aggressive. And I almost did the aggressiveness by choosing Tuivasa over Derek Lewis.
Man.
But instead, I was like, it might be safer to choose Brunson over Jared Cannonier, and of course, I was wrong on both.
Right.
We both had Derek winning, and we both were wrong. You actually had Cannonier winning.
Yeah.
And then obviously we both picked Izzy to keep his belt.
Right. I should have had Bam Bam winning. I mean, after him doing all those shoeies.
It's close.
I know. How did I not?
And the bombs that he did, and he did. And we'll get to that, though.
Right. We definitely will. I mean, of course, everyone pretty much by this time already knows that Adesanya beat Whittaker. Tuivasa, he took care of Lewis, and Cannonier won that fight against Brunson. But we want to kind of talk about what happened in those fights, what interested us about them, and definitely want to get into it. Which fight you want to get into first, though?
I mean, might as well talk about the first one that we recap or previewed, which was the middleweight fight between number 3 Jared Cannonier versus number 4 Derek Brunson. I think I had this going Brunson by third round knockout. What did you have it?
Nice. I had in the second round, actually. I had to correct this one. This one I had perfect. This is the only fight that I had perfect. The other two, I made the right call in the Adesanya fight, but not as far as the round. But this one I had the second round knockout.
Yep, and it definitely was a gruesome fight, man. Right off jump, both of them started throwing bombs, really hitting their combos like they wanted to. Cannonier honestly looked like he was in trouble after that first round. Brunson really started off with some good grappling, a couple takedowns, got top control, started striking, even ended up the round with a rear naked chokehold that most people felt like if that bell would never rung, it would have been over right there.
God, tell me about it.
Definitely looked like it was over right there. So already Brunson came out the first round, out the gate swinging, man. It was looking good. Even got another takedown in the beginning of the second, early on.
Right.
Then from there, he just got completely shut down.
Yeah.
And that's what you once you get to like 170 and up. That's what can happen pretty much. You can get your lights shut out real easy. I'll say 155 and up because some of those 155ers really got knockout power. But pretty much at one point, Cannonier landed a real hard jab that just changed Brunson's body language. Like he just was lost and wide-eyed and he just never recovered. Cannonier started giving him KFC special after special, combo after combo. Like really started lighting him up, man. He was just hitting him with sharp elbows, being very aggressive.
Yep.
Obviously, at one point he just got dropped, and it was honestly unbearable ground and pound. Like, I'll be honest, it's been a while since I've seen a white flag. I'm lying. I don't remember the last time I seen a white flag thrown in a UFC match.
It's been a while, but like those time punches, it's been a while. Like they don't do that anymore. Not since like the early 2010s.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, the white flag came in at the same time that the ref decided to stop it anyways. But watching Brunson's head bounce off that mat, coming back up into elbow after elbow, it was definitely the right call on both ends. And
for sure, yeah.
It was over. Simple as that.
At that point, no.
Crazy, man. 2-round fight. Brunson killed in the first round and then got destroyed in the second round and fights over like that, man. And that's just what happens. But hell of a way to start off. Obviously it wasn't the main card, but when you got the number one contender fight set up for what was the main card,
Right.
it's basically considered part of the main card.
Yeah.
Or the main co-event.
Cool.
Because you had two co-mains. But basically this was like a basically another co-main, and it started and ended in wonderful fashion when it comes to a fight fan's perspective. And Cannonier just showed like, hey, this is why, before Adesanya stepped on the scene, a lot of people thought Jared Cannonier was that dark horse. He was
Well,
supposed to be that person that was supposed to come up in the rankings and take everyone over. So a lot of people are happy to see him here, and he's shown he got the skill. So definitely was a great fight, man. But what'd you think about that?
man, amazing fight. And I gotta say, man, I think this might be one of the biggest comebacks in UFC history. The way that he almost lost the fight in the first round, Derek Cannonier, I'm sorry, Jared Cannonier, Derek Brunson had him down the bottom with the chokehold. And literally, if he probably would have had 10 more seconds, I think this fight would have went to Brunson. But what a comeback for him to, catch his breath in the end of the first round and come back really strong in the second round. He had that one uppercut that he caught him with, and like you said, the hammer fists and the elbows just knocked him around. Brunson, he couldn't really do much the second round. His age definitely showed in the second round. He was starting to get a little bit slower, and you can kind of see that Cannonier was literally throwing cannons. Like he was throwing those haymakers, and Brunson was kind of trying to move around him. In the first round, especially, he was doing really good, moving around the ring, circling them, and he was getting some jabs. He got a few jabs, holding them on a little bit. But I definitely, you definitely saw Cannonier's power. You definitely saw it, especially in the knockout. I mean, what power! And I mean, this man, like, to come back from a first round that was literally like a lot of people had him losing after seeing that first round. Nobody would have bet on him like going into the second round. But I mean, him just coming back from that and coming in strong too. Like he had a lot of energy going into that second round. So I definitely want to give him a lot of props for that. Brunson, he came in and he tried to do a takedown, in the second round, which was the only good thing that he did, honestly. Other than that, Cannonier was able to get out of it after the takedown. He got up pretty quickly, and after that, Brunson, he had his stance wide. He had himself open a little bit, and that's when he got damaged. The elbows got to him. He dropped, and from then on, it was just over. So I just got to give props to Cannonier for being able to step in there and coming back, man. What a comeback for him, and what a story. Because like you said, he's been a dark horse for a long time, and I think now right after the fight, he did. He held out at Dana. He was like, "Yo, Dana, I want that title shot now. I want that championship shot." You think he's gonna get that?
100%, and it looked like the date's already set in June. Basically, not only did he call Izzy out, Izzy called him out, said, "Hey,
yeah, he did fight.
He just won his. He did his work. There ain't no pay-per-view in June. Let's get it." So Izzy wants to run it back in June. So
even before the fight, Izzy was like, "Yo, Cannonier, you better beat Brunson." He did say that in like interview. He was like, "Yo, you better beat Brunson," because I think they want that fight to happen.
Yeah, he actually likes Cannonier.
Right.
As a person, at one point they had tickets to the same fight together, and he said he is actually a pretty cool dude. So Izzy's the type of person that makes his call out. So I already see it set in stone in June. Ain't no question about it. Izzy likes to fight every 3 months. He's two title defenses away from Silva's record, and he could feel it.
Of
so
course.
he wants to fight in 3 months again. So
to get it while he's at his prime, especially. And
exactly.
But from Cannonier to what about Brunson? I mean, Brunson's on the tail end of his career in the UFC. I mean, he was waiting like 10 years to get a title shot pretty much against Adesanya, and if he would have won this fight, I feel like he definitely would have had the shot. He looked really good in that first round. He looked very good, but his age was showing. He was slowing down a lot. So what do you think about him?
It's over for him. He was already talking about retirement this week, but in his eyes, he was talking about, I'm gonna beat Cannonier, beat Izzy,
he wanted
and
that
then right off into the sunset.
exactly. Yeah, he wanted
But
that.
the fact that he was already talking about retirement lets you know he knows he's reaching his edge, and to take a brutal loss like that, you know you don't have enough shot or enough in the tank to go at another title shot at this point. He might think about hanging it up.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. I think it'll be at least another 4 fights if he wins 4 in a row to get back into that title fight. I just don't think that he has enough time in the tank. It's like a 2-year run for a guy like him. So I do kind of agree with you that he kind of lost his shot, man. This was his shot, and he looked so good in that first round. Like when you made that Brunson call, like I thought that this was gonna be a very even fight, especially in the first round. Like I knew that they were going to be feeling each other out, but I didn't know how good Brunson was going to come out that first round. So I was definitely a little scared about my pick. But the second round, I just didn't see anything from him. So it's tough.
Yeah, no, after that takedown, he just got rocked and it was over.
Yeah, for sure. It
was over.
But
yeah, no.
Good way to start that, to start those fights, especially the ones we talked about. I mean, and this fight definitely matters. Definitely matters in the future. Like you said, fight's already set in stone. So, I mean, we don't really got to talk too much about it. We can talk about it a little bit later when we talk about Izzy. But next up was that co-main event, right?
Yeah, man. The big boys are in the house, and they definitely did not disappoint. Let me go right off the bat and say, win or loss, this was a both I've seen out of both fighters today. Today. Tai Tuivasa, number 11th ranked heavyweight, went up against a number 3 ranked heavyweight in Derek Lewis. And what most people predicted to be a Lewis knockout ended up being a second round Tai Tuivasa knockout and a deadly one at that. And the biggest win of his career, man, Tai definitely showed that he can hang with the big boys.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie. This is why I say this was the best I've seen from both of them because I've seen more out of Derek Lewis in this one fight than I've seen in his whole career.
Yeah.
He actually had Tai Tuivasa in trouble early on. Like Tai was eating hammer after hammer in the first 2 rounds. Pretty much like Lewis was out there trying to throw a knee or two, takedowns, sprawling, ground and pound. Like I'll be honest, up until he got knocked out, he was actually winning the fight.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, and he was doing it in a dominant fashion. He was really just rocking them. But Tai Tuivasa found a way to eat those punches, turn it around, and end up face planting Lewis with a nasty elbow in the second round. I ain't gonna lie, just like Greg Hardy, Tai Tuivasa got caught.
Yeah,
Lewis tried to go in, finish it off, chase the finish, and just like Greg Hardy, Tai Tuivasa started throwing some back, and a couple of those connected. He ended up catching Lewis back in that second round. Lewis got staggered. He's staggering back a little bit. Now Ty's chasing him for the finish. And something has to be said about the chin that Ty has. Like, it's ridiculous for him to withstand those punches for 2 rounds like he was doing. He was getting rocked.
We definitely talked about that in the last episode. We talked about Ty's chin, and we talked about the fact that when he gets hit, he pretends kind of that he's getting like hurt a little bit, so he moves back, and then like he'll like lead you in. And the same thing that happened to Greg Hardy happened to Derek Lewis. You're right about that.
100%, and he took some nasty blows from the best knockout artist in the game and stood his ground. So definitely, clearly, he showed that he could stand with the big boys. And obviously, like I said, best fight I've seen from both to date. But at the end of the day, one of them, especially the way they were getting rocked, someone was bound to go to sleep. Simple as that.
Tell me about it.
And hey, Ty ended up winning, man. And it was I'm not even mad about this pick. I personally didn't pick Ty because I thought that for him to win, he was gonna have to sit there and exchange in the pocket with Derek Lewis. I didn't think he can do that and come out on top because not many men do when it comes to Derek Lewis. So yeah, no, he withstood the best from Derek Lewis and came back with the best of his own and came out the better man. So 100%. Got to give it a Tai Tuivasa. He ain't no scrub anymore. And at the end of the day, I can't even be mad at if someone told me Tai Tuivasa won, my initial reaction would have been like Derek Lewis must have went out there and just gassed out early, had nothing to his game, but that wasn't the case.
Not at
Derek
all.
Lewis actually fought the best fight I've seen from him, and he's even been talking about losing more serious weight, dropping down to 240. Like
Heard that. Yep.
he knows he don't got much left in the tank, so I don't know what he's gonna do now that he lost again. Because now that's 2-2 in the last 4 fights. And one of them was for the interim championship. So who knows what he thinks left? But I know he's gonna keep fighting until he can, no matter who he fights, until he can retire because he wants the money. Right. And he said that like 2-3 years ago. He's like, I already know I don't got much left, but I'm just gonna keep giving it.
He's trying to make that.
And exactly. That's why he fights so often as well.
Right.
Because and that's why he also don't care about goddamn conditioning, because he just wants to get money. He just wants to fight 3-4 times a year and get paid.
But listen, at his level in the heavyweight, it's knockout or get knocked out. So you don't got you don't got a long time in that game, because that's concussions on concussions on concussions. You know.
That's a fact, and I know he definitely felt this last knockout. So we'll see what's next for both of them. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But what about you? What did you think from that fight?
You know, I gotta agree with you about this being like the best fight for both of them. I think, like, especially like Derek Lewis, he had a great fight, and in the first round, you could see it. He wasn't just going in there and knocking him around. Like, he was knocking Tai Tuivasa around. The one thing that Tai did have is the low kicks. He was hitting Derek Lewis a few times with the low kicks in the first round, which I thought was different from Tai. He doesn't utilize that much. But I love to see the Derek Lewis. He went for the takedown. He actually got a takedown too. In that first round, he got him. He got Tai Tuivasa on the ropes, pretty much on the fence, and then he kind of pushed him down. Was able to like trip him down, which my man Lewis doesn't utilize his wrestling as much as he should. I knew that he was going to try to like utilize that, because he wants to wear out the other fighter. You know, if he's on top of him, then the other fighter's using a lot of energy to try to get back up. But right when Tai went down, he got right back up. It's not like he stayed on the ground too long. So that was like a wash for that first round knockdown, takedown, excuse me, for Derek Lewis. So I think that both fighters, you know, that second round were trying to knock each other out. Like, they knew that this was it. Like, we don't got that much in the tank. You know, we're both tired. You can see it even from Tai. Like, he was huffing and puffing even after the break from the first round. He was still puffing, like getting into the second round. But both fighters were going at each other. And, you know, that uppercut, man, I don't think Derek Lewis saw it. You know, the uppercut and then that elbow. Like, first it was the uppercut that dazed him and moved him back towards the cage. And then that elbow is what knocked him out. And, I mean, like you said, though, Bam was getting knocked around, too. And he's got a chin. There's something that's got to be said for his chin and the fact that he's never been knocked out in this UFC, you know, matches. So that's one thing about him. Bam has never been knocked out, and he's gotten hit by some of the biggest guys. Greg Hardy, obviously, now Lewis. And now I think he's definitely going to be moving up in the rankings. Great elbow by him, and then great, you know, it's good that he didn't have to go down and try to, you know, hit him more, because we kind of knew that was it for Derek Lewis. It's tough for him, tough for Lewis, because I thought, like you, I thought he was very well in this match. And it was an even match. It was a very even match if you look at it. The judges had Derek Lewis win in the first round. Obviously, second round knockout, so we don't really know what the scorecard is there. But, you know, like you said, Derek Lewis was winning it, and he could have won it if he just kind of would have stuck to his plan, what he did in the first round. I did notice that his leg got a little bit hurt towards the second round when Tuivasa kept hitting it. It wasn't too bad, but he definitely like shook it off one time. Like, he shook off his leg when he got hit. But I think it was an even fight. I just think that Tai Tuivasa loves to bring guys in. Like, when he gets hit, he just brings guys in. He pretends like he's like kind of hurried, puts his head down a little bit, and then all of a sudden he'll just and then with the elbows, and that's what he does. And great strategy by him. It's worked twice already against great opponents, and we'll see what happens next with him. But I definitely think he's moving up in the rankings. What about you? You think he's going to move up in these rankings now, like top 5, let's say? I think a lot of people are talking about him already being top 5 from this.
Yeah, I think the initial ranking now is a third contender behind Stipe and Gain. Simple as that. He just beat the one that was under them and Derek Lewis.
Wow.
The only one under that is Curtis Blades.
I thought he would be below him, but now they got him at 4th. Wow.
Also too, but yeah, they got him at 4, number 3 contender. Okay. Yeah. At the end of the day, I think he ain't got no choice but to fight Gain next.
I think that's the most logical thing. I think, and I said this in our previous podcast when we were doing a preview for this. I do think that Cyril Gane and Tai Tuivasa have very similar styles and very similar bodies. So for them to fight is gonna be a great matchup. I think that's gonna be a good match for both. You know, they both like standing up. They both like hitting each other. You know, it's not gonna be like Derek Lewis trying to get takedowns. You know, not like Ngannou, what he did to Gane.
No, I definitely think it'll be a good fight. But now with Derek Lewis losing, I think he's still in the top 6.
Yeah.
What do you have? No, he's 4 now.
Okay, he's moved down 1.
Yeah, he's moved down 1. So what do you think's next for him?
See, I mean, there's not many guys in that heavyweight division that are top names that are like, you know, big sellers, big ticket sellers. So Derek Lewis is still a big sell. I think potentially do a second fight with Tuivasa, but I think the UFC knows that Tuivasa is just moving up this way. But let's say Tuivasa and Gane fight happens and Gane loses. I could see a Gane versus Lewis again. I don't know. That could be interesting enough. I feel like Lewis has at least 3 more fights in him in the UFC, at least, especially being a big name like this.
Yeah, and he's gonna take him as fast as he can, and as long as Dana's gonna keep throwing him top 5, top 6 contenders. So I definitely see a couple more fights, but I don't know. Hopefully, let's see if he lose some serious weight and give it one last go. But who knows?
If he loses some weight, I think he needs to work on that wrestling. I think he needs to definitely utilize that more if he loses some weight. But I think that Tai Tuivasa is another guy like Derek Lewis. He likes to fight quick. You know, his last fight was just like 4 months ago before this one. So I think he's the same.
That's why I think him and Gane next makes sense. They can get it on in like 3, 4 months.
Yeah, I mean, that's gonna suck for Ngannou then because he's gonna have to wait again for another title defense.
Nah, I don't know because at this point, who knows what's going on with them? We literally haven't heard no word since that event.
They haven't re-signed him yet, so we don't know. They haven't made an offer back, so we don't know yet. I mean, so a lot of people are still talking about the John Jones and Ngannou fight, but I'm not even gonna bring that up because that's just a dream.
Man, John Jones, I don't even know what he's doing either.
Exactly, but you know, from one African champion to another African champion. How about Adesanya versus Whittaker? Of course, this is the second time they fought, and this is the championship match of the night. Yes. What do you think about this fight? I thought it was incredible.
So, I've been waiting to get to this because there's been a lot of unhappy people regarding Izzy taking the decision on this. So we are talking about middleweight champion Israel Adesanya versus number 1 contender Robert Whittaker. I had this going decision by Izzy. The actual fight was decision by Izzy, only one of the night. But it was pretty much what I expected it to be. And here's the thing, like, so a lot of people weren't happy. It was unanimous decision by the judges. One judge even had it 49-46.
Right. Yep.
Literally gave Izzy 3, 4, and 5, and the other 2 judges gave 4 and 5 to Whittaker.
That's right. There was only one round that was unanimous. That was the first round. And then the rest of the round. Oh, first and third. That's right. And then the rest of them weren't unanimous.
Exactly. Right. So all 3 judges gave the first and third to Izzy. So 2 of them gave Izzy the second.
Mm-hmm.
1 gave Whittaker the second.
Yep.
The other 2 rounds they gave to Whittaker, the first 2 judges. So it was basically 1, 2, 3 Izzy, 4, 5 Whittaker. But the weird part is the one that scored it 49-46 instead of 48-47 is the one that gave Whittaker the second round instead of the other 2.
That doesn't make sense.
But he's also the same one that gave Izzy the last 50.
Right.
So I'll be honest, I don't know what he was seeing.
Yep.
But I will still agree with the unanimous decision.
Right. And the judges will think of Montevallo, Doug Crosby, and Mike Beltran. So just for people to know.
Yes, and Mike Beltran was the one with the 49-46 card. So here's why. I'm going to say that they were right. I get where the discrepancies were. I get what people saw in the fight, but even at the end of the day, like I remember watching the post show, and Cheryl Sonnen and Pettit was talking, and they both was like, I don't know how Whittaker didn't win, but then they talked to DC and they talked to the commentators, and even the commentator was like, yeah, everyone on all of us saw Izzy won too. So there was something that we at home weren't seeing that they were in person, and I'll tell you what that was.
All right, yeah, I want to hear it too, because I have my theory.
And danger. Simple as that. When you got someone as dominant as Izzy, you have to do a lot to take the belt.
That's right.
You're the one that steps up. You have to do a lot to take the belt. And yes, Whittaker was so much better than the first fight. So much more improved. Even had a couple takes down. A little excitement, was catching Izzy with the jab. But the champ was in no real danger all night. The only time he was in somewhat danger is when at one point he took his back. And he was on his back. But even then, every time, right. Every time he got taken down, though, Izzy got right back up. He didn't get no damage. He couldn't keep him down. So, yes, you get that points for the takedown. But at the end of the day, Izzy sat there and picked and chose his spots and dealt leg kicks all night to keep his distance. You knew he was going to do that. You got a little bit more aggressive with the takedowns. You couldn't do any damage with that. And yes, you caught him a couple times with that jab, but then, like I said, you didn't do enough to take the belt from the champion. All the judges pretty much, the first two judges gave Izzy the first 3 rounds because even with the 2 takedowns, at that point, they didn't felt like Whittaker did anything. Then the 4th and 5th, they gave it to Whittaker. Right. The other judge felt like Whittaker did something the second round, but then gave Izzy the rest of the fight. So literally at a certain point, yes, you're connecting, yeah, you're hitting him, but you got to realize Izzy was also connecting. There was plenty of those leg kicks lit Whittaker up all night. The amount of times Izzy's knee connected to his face or his gut, like Izzy was lighting him up all night with the kickboxing combos. Yep. And pretty much it is what it is. Yes, for some people that's a boring fight. I personally enjoy watching a technician do his work.
Yeah, the technical side of it, not at all.
I love watching a technician do his work, and that's what Izzy is. And Robert just didn't score enough. At the end of it's a game of points, and Izzy understands that.
That's true. And here's that's the thing about points is Robert Whittaker. I'm sorry, Izzy got a takedown in the first round. That's why, and that takedown he was able to hold on to the takedown for a while. But here's the thing, on the other rounds, when Robert Whittaker got his takedowns, Izzy was able to get up so fast. And usually in wrestling, they give you that point. And basically, so if you get a takedown and then you get up very fast within like that first 10 seconds, it's basically a wash. It doesn't, the points, they cancel each other out if it's that close. Especially in wrestling, it's like that. And then MMA, they judge it very similarly to wrestling. So whenever he gets up that quick.
You're giving the takedown, but you also got to look at how quick.
Yeah, the escape gives you that 1 point too. So
the ground, yeah, it's simple as that. So I personally, I think that Izzy did enough to win the fight. I didn't think that Robert did enough to win the fight because at the end of the day, that 5th round, he just was. A lot of people already thought like you had to go out there and do something.
He was looking for a knockout at that point. He knew,
and he was missing.
Exactly.
And it's crazy because 2 judges gave him that 5th round, but at that point,
because Adesanya didn't throw much. That's why.
Adesanya was already like, I'm gonna keep my distance, and that's what. And it's simple as that. I don't care what anyone says. That's what you do in a close fight.
Of course.
Go to the 5th round and it's 2-2.
Especially because he wasn't sure. He wasn't sure he was winning at that 5th round. Like I could see it.
And both theirs heads, it might have been a real even fight. So yeah, Izzy was gonna pick and choose. And Robert was trying to counter punch to get the right shot. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, it's not enough for you to win. So a lot of people were upset about it, but I thought it was a good fight. I thought the winner won.
See, for me, I don't even understand how people could be upset about it. I mean, maybe like a few people, they could really think that it's a little bit closer. Like maybe, I could maybe see it the 48-47. Like I can possibly give Whittaker that second and possibly fifth round, but I think most people would have it as a 48 a 49-46 fight. You give Izzy 3 rounds and yeah, and Whittaker you give Izzy 4 rounds and Whittaker only had 1 round. To me, Izzy definitely had the first round with the takedown. He was able to hold on top. And you can see Izzy came out strong, switching up stances, going from orthodox to southpaw, switching it up, figuring out which way Whittaker was going to fight. Izzy, from the beginning, though, started with those low leg kicks. And that first round, at the end of the first round, Whittaker went back to his corner and he said, he's killing me with those leg kicks. I don't know how to stop him. He even said that to his corner. He was like, I don't know how to stop those leg kicks. You saw by the third round, by the fourth round, Whittaker's left leg or left shin was double the size of his right shin. Like you could literally see it on TV. It was like so red and so much bigger. Like he was having trouble on that fifth round, literally putting all that weight on his leg. And that's why Adesanya was able to move around that fifth round and not get hit much, because he knew that Whittaker was going for that knockout. That's the only way he was going to be able to win. The second and third round, I believe that the way Adesanya was able to win is, like I said, Whittaker was going too much for the takedowns, and Adesanya was getting right back up from them. That's the one thing he was doing very well. He's working on his wrestling game a lot, and you can definitely see that he still doesn't want to stay on the ground too much. I did think that this was going to be a submission by him, and he was going to show off a little bit more because the type of fighter Whittaker is on the ground. But I feel like Adesanya could move around on the ground better, and he can get different holds and grabs, especially with his long limbs. So I did think that's how he could have got his submission, but he just wanted to stay up. Every time he was trying to be brought down, Adesanya would just be able to get right back up, and he brought it into a stand-up fight, and that's kind of what won it for him, keeping it a stand-up fight, keeping his distance, picking his shots, and hitting that shin. And like I said, by the fifth round, you saw that shin. It was just red, deep red. And I think the judges got it right, to be honest. To me, it's not much of a controversy. I think most people in this type of fight, they want to see a knockout. But at this, these type of fights, guys they have endurance. They can last. There's not like a heavyweight matchup where, they last 2 rounds and that's it. But this one, they got the endurance. They got speed, so they can move around a lot. They're able to maneuver out of each other's moves, especially if they're on the ground. And they're very technically gifted, like you see Adesanya is, and able to switch styles, which I thought that Whittaker should have done that too. I thought he should have switched out of that orthodox style. It would have been probably better for him if he would have led with his right, done like a left-right combo, because it looked like Izzy was leaving himself open for that. Kind of like the in the Derek Brunson fight, how he was getting jabbed. He was getting jabbed up a lot, and he was leaving himself open for the left-right combo, like left and then the right jab. I felt like Whittaker could have used that a little bit, but he's not used to switching styles. He's used to staying in orthodox. So, you got to give Izzy a lot of credit, though, winning this fight, getting this title defense. And Whittaker was definitely in the best shape of his career, I would say. Definitely looked bigger than he did in the first fight he did against Adesanya, and he had the best shot that he could, but he just couldn't do it. And I think we know what's next for Adesanya now. I mean, we both talked about it a little bit. We think that it's going to be Cannonier. And what's next for Whittaker?
I think the only logical option is Strickland. He's the only other up-and-comer in the top 5 who hasn't faced everyone else. Brunson's probably going to get dropped down a little bit. Cannonier's already getting his shot. I mean, maybe Whittaker versus Vettori. I'll be honest, that'll be a good matchup.
You know what? That's another matchup. I wasn't thinking about that earlier, but because I was thinking Whittaker Brunson, but that's a good point. I think that would be a great matchup.
But I don't know. It depends on how much they expect to drop Whittaker now that he lost.
I don't think he's gonna drop much because Brunson just lost. I think
Vettori still got a couple days, but as weird as it sounds, he's still above Vettori. Cannonier's right under Vettori. I still think Cannonier's gonna get his shot. So yeah, I think Whittaker versus Vettori or Whittaker versus Strickland is probably the best option.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would have liked personally to see Whittaker versus Brunson, because the way that they fight, they're both, guys that like to get on the ground.
Derek Brunson's going to have to probably fight
he's gonna He's gonna move down for sure. Yeah, I like the way that they both are ground fighters. Like this UFC 271, you kind of saw that the UFC is kind of moving into a stand-up game more now.
Mm-hmm.
Not seeing much of the ground game as much, which I love to see that from the UFC as well. And I feel like
the Russians.
Yeah, I mean, except them, you're right. Kurzamedov and Nurmagomedov and all of them. Yeah.
I think he's from Sweden. Like all they want to do is wrestle.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. You're definitely right about that. I mean, it'll be interesting though to see what happens next with Whittaker. I do think he's still up there. For if he wins a few more fights for title
contention versus Usman. Both those two are above the rest, but until Usman leaves the division, Covington's never going to win a belt. Robert Whittaker is definitely better than every other middleweight, but until Israel Adesanya leaves that division, Robert is not going to win a belt.
And that's the thing about Israel Adesanya. I mean, this is already like 2 title defenses. I mean, we've talked about this previously with Ngannou because, I was talking about his title defense as being close to John Jones's, and I would call him the best ever. But, I mean, at this point, you got to put Izzy in there in that conversation, too, as the best UFC fighter ever to step in the UFC ring, at least. I mean, if you look at his middleweights, he's never lost in the middleweight. He only has that one loss against Jan Blachowicz. That's when he moved up in weight. What do you say about that? What do you think?
Yeah, he's definitely in the top 10 pound for pound. 2 wins away from Adesanya, from Silva's record in the middleweight division, and that's what I said. He's going to try to tie it by this year. He definitely wants 2 to 3 more fights this year. If
you don't think it's top 5 yet?
Pound for pound. So it's hard to tell because his skill set is so great and so specific. But at the end of the day, he do still have clear weaknesses. So when you come to pound for pound, like in my head, I'm thinking about putting him up against like other top middleweights and other top in their division. So you obviously got Anderson Silva. Are we talking about active though, pound for pound, or just because it's hard to even place him above Anderson pound for pound in his own division?
Yeah, I would say all time.
I can't even place him above Anderson yet.
No, I agree.
I say top 10 because it leaves room for that top 5.
Okay, but you don't want to put 2 guys middleweight at number 1.
Yeah, he still got Pierre, George St. Pierre.
Yep.
Obviously got John Jones.
Yeah.
Hell, at the end of the day, people don't give him his respect. But Demetrius Johnson, held the record. Like, you know what I'm saying? He definitely got to be pound for pound up there. And people don't like giving him his respect. But simple as this: you take any other champion and drop them down to 135, they're not hanging with Mickey Mouse.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he's pound for pound. Like, he's definitely up there. So yeah, I'll give him top 10 because those are just 3-4 names I could think of. Recent champions. I mean, you gotta have.
I think Ngannou's still above him just a little bit, even though.
Yeah.
Just for
at the end of the day, Stipe is even considered the best heavyweight in history technically for the UFC. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you still got people over him. But at the end of the day, I think he will reach top 5 and maybe even top 3. Like I said, he might have weaknesses, but no one's been able to exploit them really. Exactly. And we do know what his weaknesses are. Like we do. But no one's been able to exploit them. So we'll definitely see. And I know he's constantly working on them. You know what I mean? So we'll definitely see what he got to offer. And obviously, he wants to keep growing. He wants to go right back in the gym, fight again in June.
Exactly. And the one thing about this fight, real quick, is Whittaker definitely tried everything he could to focus on this fight and to work on, to change his game just for this fight. The last 3 fights, he's been working on takedowns, on wrestling skills to make sure that. Because he knew that if he's bigger than Adesanya, he thought he could fight him like Jan Blachowicz did, try to get his weight on top of him, get him all tired, and then towards the 3rd round, 4th round, try to beat up on him. But Adesanya's been working on those things too, and it doesn't seem like he's getting any worse. He's just getting better too. So
the last couple of fights. So before the last couple of fights, we didn't see him get taken down. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people kept thinking that was the answer.
Right.
And the only person we've seen him taken down and actually be successful with keeping him there is obviously John. And a lot of that has to do with that damn weight and the strength.
Bro. 40 pounds.
That's why I said if Izzy took the time and got his body up with good strength up to 205, I think he could still be trouble. But he definitely still got to maybe not like beating people. Like now he won't be champ, but he'll be a top contender trouble. But that at that point, that wrestling got to drastically improve at 205. 205 and heavyweights more than likely, and it's crazy because a lot of people don't realize this. Most of them start off as wrestlers.
Yeah, I mean, if you talk about Derek Lewis, like he was an all-American wrestler. Like,
that's what I'm saying. Most of them big boys start off as all-American college champions and high school champion wrestlers. So like at the end of the day, when you're at 205, you gotta be able to wrestle really good. And I say he gets away with that at 185, and it is what it is. At the end of the day, Anderson Silva was the same type of style, but Anderson Silva didn't like the floor either. He had the jiu-jitsu experience, but that was the same thing. People thought if you take Anderson to the floor, that was your way to get him out.
True, but I will give Anderson definitely his submissions were a little bit better.
I know on the floor he was actually good, but that was your best option, and they still couldn't do that to him. So clearly something about 185ers, like you got those anomalies with them tall, lanky, strong, agile, fighters that you just can't seem to get them to the floor like you want to. So I'll give it to him. So I definitely think he's going to be a lot more exciting to watch this year, man. 2 more fights at least.
Wait to top 5, maybe even top 3, and you never know.
Once he tie or beats Anderson Silva's record, at that point he's got to be considered the best middleweight of all time.
Yeah.
At that point, there's no case for him not being in the top 5 and not in top 3.
I mean, even like if you just look at middleweight division of all time, you gotta definitely put him top 3 already, just because the way he's able to do things.
At this point, he's the best middleweight in history to me, right behind Anderson Silva.
Right, top 3 for sure for me. Yeah,
for sure.
For sure, man. But I mean, what a great weekend of fights, and again, great to see Adesanya win it. Great to see Tai Tuivasa Bam Bam get another shoey. You gonna do a shoey with Tai Tuivasa if he comes through?
Never in my life, and he wouldn't even get my shoe either. Like we're not doing that.
I'm like, bro, we gotta go get some like fresh, clean pair, like
not putting glue in my shoe. We're not doing that. Now how am I gonna get home?
Right. Nah, I did notice the one dude that he did take a shoey from at the end. It wasn't the shoe on his foot. It was like a shoe that had like a plastic, like kind of like a plastic thing in there, so it wasn't like getting in the fabric, which is smart. That's for sure. But great fights. I know, right? But we'll see what happens with all these guys later in this year, and I'm sure we're gonna talk about the UFC more as the next UFC comes up. We definitely got another one coming up pretty soon, next month, March 5th, I think. 270 coming up.
Masvidal. Man. It's gonna be another one. Heart versus mind.
Yeah, and they don't like each other at all, so that's gonna be interesting to watch for sure.
Hates both of them even more than they hate each other.
Who's that? Dustin? Oh no, okay.
I can't stand both these fighters, and I'm so mad I gotta choose one of them to win. I literally want them both to knock each other out and lose.
I know they definitely both got very big egos, but we'll see which bigger ego will win. But that'll be next up, coming up in March 5th. We'll definitely talk about that one. But it's great having you guys with us on this episode. If you guys want to watch the episode in its entirety, check us out on YouTube. If you want to listen to us, check us out wherever you get your podcast. If you guys have any questions for us, you know where to find us, right?
Exactly, man. We just dropped our NFL episode, so we'll definitely get a lot more fighting game now that season's over. We got to pick up a little bit more boxing if we can, but I'll be honest, there ain't been that many good matchups.
We got to wait for a great matchup again, We got
to wait for a great matchup. So definitely hope we see a couple good fights. I know some of them 145ers, man. We gotta get some of those top 145 boxers in the ring with each other. So we'll definitely see. But you know what it is, man. Let us know what you wanna talk about. If you got any off fight episodes or off fight questions, like just like we just did, debating top heavyweights, debating pound for pound. Like we definitely throw a couple of those out there. So as always, let us know what you want, and we're here for it.
That's for sure, man. That's what we're here for. Debates, highlights, we love it all. Matchups. So we definitely want to appreciate you guys again, and thank you for listening to another episode of Who You Got with
MELO
and RADO. See you guys next time.